If you guys like to be captioned in the next video or featured in the next video, please caption this actual photo at the top right of your screen right now, and you guys can actually be in the next episode of whatever series I do next. Just please comment it down in the comment section down below and begin.
Peter Piper got my eyes on her like sniper. Gonna take your girl like swiper. You won't smoke, then get a lighter. I say, what the heck is you doing? I cannot say the other word. On my parents are shooting, my fist be pulled. Hey, you don't have fans. Yeah, you may be right, sis. Hit your girl like demolition derby.
Hi everybody, it's Onyx here and welcome back to a brand new video on this channel. And today I want to give you guys a movie of sorts. So let's give you guys a movie of what if Deku saved a goddess. This is a 3-parter video if you guys actually want to see this in parts. And the top eye on the top right of your screen would actually be there to actually lead you to the parts of the video, which will lead you to my main channel. If you guys actually want more movies like this in the future, please let me know in the comment section down below, or just hitting the subscribe button. It's free and easy to use. By the way, last night we recently hit 1.5 thousand subscribers. We're getting insanely close to 2,000 subscribers. If you guys can hit that, that'll be highly appreciated, and I can get more videos like this out in the future. Thank you all for watching, and let's begin our video. With the perspective of Izuku Midoriya, aged 10 years old. As Izuku was with his mother around this time. "Hey mom, what's we having for dinner?" Izuku said in the most innocent tone, as Inko turned her head to her son, smiling a gigawatt smile. I don't know, honey, what would you want to eat? Can we have burgers?" Izuku said, nodding his head to the side. "Yeah, sure, sweetie. Let's go over here then for something to eat," Izuku said. Or Inko said, sorry. As Inko and Izuku both sat down for something to eat as they ate their burgers, of course. Until something came through the door. As the man who had walked through the door would have been a villain with guns on his hands, or gun for hands. If you guys have seen the guy in the USJ with guns on his fingers, that's him. "Put the money in the bag right goddamn now," the man shouted out loud. As Izuku just started to hug his mother, saying, "Mom, what's that?" Izuku said, as Inko told Izuku to get under the table with her following behind him. As the man just went up to the counter and pointed his quirk at the man. As the man just put his hands up, saying, "We don't have any money. We just donated it," the man said. "Where'd you donate it to, huh?" the man said with a stone look on his face. "We donated to a charity for cancer, kid, man. Calm down," he said. That got good enough as he shot a bullet at the glass window, shattering it. "Either get me my money or I'm gonna start killing hostages," the man said. As the man started to actually fire more of his bullets at people, hitting one person in general. This being Night Eye, as the bullet went straight through Night Eye's wrist. Izuku, seeing that, would say, "Oh no, he hit Wait, who is that?" Izuku said, as the Night Eye just stood up from his seat and just looked over at the man. "Well, you just ruined my afternoon." As Night Eye said that, he threw five kilogram little chess pieces at the man, hitting him in the head and clogging up his system, so actually making him fire his quirk at the man. As Night Eye threw one more at his head, knocking him clean out unconscious. As Night Eye strapped him up and put him to a castigated wall, making him unable to move. As everyone was just standing there in shock, an anorexic man actually took down something. But they took a second glance as they noticed it was Night Eye. As most people came rushing over to him, asking him about what All Might is. Because remember, in this timeline, he's still actually partnered up with All Might. As Night Eye tried to ignore them and tried to go over to the kids to make sure they were okay. The first one he went to was Izuku Midoriya, as Night Eye went down on his hands and knees and asked the kid if he was okay. As Izuku replied, saying, Yeah, I'm okay. Thank you very much, sir," Izuku said. As Izuku just said, "Excuse me, but can I have an autograph, please?" Izuku said, excited and also very nervous at the same time. As Night Eye handed him a piece of paper with his autograph already signed on it. As Izuku put this into his actual book, and Izuku just placed it into the actual bookmark to use it. Is that so? as Izuku would have actually walked off with his mother and everything and arrived back at his apartment. As a couple of days went by, Izuku would have been hanging around the park like usual. As Izuku arrived back at the park like he would normally do every single weekend, as Izuku arrived there he saw a girl getting bullied by Bakugo. As Izuku ran up to them asking him what was he doing, but before Bakugo could throw another explosion, Izuku stood right in front of the explosion, taking the full force of it, with Izuku getting knocked back a little bit. As Izuku managed to pick up himself saying, "Kachan, what are you doing? Leave her alone," Izuku said. As Bakugo was just saying, "Shut up, Deku, get lost, you weak, quirkless nerd," Bakugo said with a furious tone, unlike Kanon. As Bakugo threw another explosion at Izuku, with Izuku just taking it full on. Thanks to Izuku being blasted with Bakugo's quirk throughout his life, Izuku's managed to build up an endurance a tiny bit, but not enough endurance to actually take the full force. As Izuku's full experience with Bakugo's explosion started to get more and more effective on Izuku's body, making Izuku bruise and started to have cuts and started to form on Izuku's body. As Izuku was taking these explosions, the girl behind him started to back up slowly. As she got to a safe distance, her parents called her. "Elizabeth, where are you?" the woman shouted. As the woman would have just saw Izuku being beaten up, she would have instantly rushed over, knocking the blonde-haired boy, telling him how much of a bad person he is for doing that. She would have just started to call the police before Bakugo used an explosion on the woman's wrist, making her let go a tiny bit of his grip. As Bakugo started to run away with his lackeys following behind. "Oh, you little brats, come back here," the man shouted. As the woman was just paying attention to see if her daughter was okay. But before she could say anything, her daughter started to say, "Yeah, but is that boy okay? He took the full brunt of that mean boy's attacks," this white-haired girl said. As Izuku would have just ouch, Izuku said, trying to get up when he couldn't even move at all. As Izuku's body started to spasm and tense up through every single movement Izuku did, it just got worse and worse. As the woman came walking up to Izuku, putting her hand on top of his head, and started to say little bits of chants. "Hanimo, Hasimo, Siukabo," as Izuku's body started to surround in white light, as Izuku's body started to rapidly heal. Like recovery goes healing, but it takes no stamina, only from the user itself. As the woman finished healing the little boy, as she helped him to a nearest bench, and sat down with him, asking him what went wrong, and like why is that boy beating the crap out of him for. As Izuku would have walked down, saying he was quirkless, and this has always happened since he was 4 years old. My mom, dad, and everyone else doesn't do anything about it, Izuku said. "I think it's because of those goddamn quirk lords," the man said, walking behind the tree, or coming from it, grabbing some paper towels from the bathroom. "In this world, if you have a better quirk, you're equal to like one of the richest families. You can basically get away with more or less anything," the man said. "Yeah, but it seems a bit overkill, doesn't it?" the woman said. "Yeah, I know, but that's the way the world works here. If you have a villain that's either black or white type of quirk fire, that's basically just going to either be a villain or hero. It's all depending on what type of quirk it is." As the man said this, the woman understood, and Izuku understood as well. As the quirkless seemed like a virus that seems to be incurable. But people just put them down in life because there are only little bits of them left, and people think they're like a mini virus that people can catch and be quirkless. "I'm guessing that's what happened to you," the man said. "Yeah, basically," Izuku said, struggling to talk from him being nervous. As Izuku started to get up slowly and started to say, "Thank you very much for helping me. I'm going to be on my way home now. Thank you," Izuku said as Izuku walked off. But before Izuku could walk off, the girl grabbed his hand and said, Would you like to be my friend? The girl said. As Izuku had just said, yes, sure, I would like to be your friend. Izuku said as his eyes glazed with 20 gigawatt smiles, the same with the little girls as well. As they both went out for the out of the years, being friends, getting closer and closer to the point you would actually think they're dating to the point. As a couple of years went by, 3 years speed as ice, or 4 years actually, when they're all 14 years of age and their last year of middle school. As Izuku, Elizabeth, and everyone else was sat in their classrooms like the original canon. As Izuku was sitting there, the teacher actually started to walk through the door, giving everyone their actual tests to see where they want to go next year, or into their next high school. I like canon. As just like canon, the teacher would have just shouted out, "Oh, Midori, you want to go to high school as well? Also UA?" I don't think you could do that without a quirk. The man just started to laugh, as everyone else in the class laughed except from 2 people. And this also, one of these people just jumped onto his desk and charged up at Izuku with an explosion in his hand. "You filthy, quirkless bastard!" Bakugo shouted, throwing an explosion at Izuku's desk, with Izuku just barely touching out of the way. "You think you can become a hero without a quirk? Don't make me laugh," Bakugo said with a scowl on his face. As Bakugo started to charge up his explosion even more, and tried to throw it at Izuku, but Izuku managed to evade it, so Bakugo started to throw another one and another one. But it still didn't hit Izuku, which just made Bakugo even more mad, until the teacher finally told Bakugo to sit back down and be quiet, or he'll be going to the principal's office. As Bakugo complied and actually sat back down at his desk, getting more and more angrier by the second, as Elizabeth nudged Izuku's arm, telling him, "Is he okay?" As Izuku would have replied saying, "Yeah, I'm okay. Thanks for worrying," Izuku said. As Izuku and Elizabeth both talked through the lecture in their class. As for the remaining minutes of the lesson, Bakugo stared at Izuku with flames coming out of Bakugo's hand, and also with charred smoke as well. As Bakugo started saying, "Izuku, at the end of the lesson, you're fucking dead," Bakugo said internally. As everyone else in that class wouldn't have not paid attention to it except from Elizabeth. She would have known about that, about his bullying and everything, and would have tried to actually get it sorted through the years. But Bakugo's mother and Izuku's mother would have actually tried to not do anything about it. Thanks to Izuku being quirkless and everything, they don't care as much as what they should do, its parents. As throughout the years through that, Inko started to actually become less lenient with Izuku, thinking he's not going to become a hero, there's no point of him actually even being here. She would be thinking internally, but she would never act on it for the scared thought of actually losing her child permanently, as Inko would have actually started to take a little bit less care of Izuku gradually, but it's still noticeable nonetheless. As we cut back to Izuku's point of view, at the end of the lesson everything would have gone like canon, with Bakugo actually blowing up Izuku's book. But the moment Izuku went downstairs to grab his book, Elizabeth would have actually helped him dry it off a lot faster than canon. Izuku in this timeline would have been a lot more confident to start actually training, so Izuku's actually got his season 4 body built in the original canon, so Izuku's going to be a lot stronger than you think he is. It's just like canon, they'll be going under the underpass, but the moment Izuku would have heard something rattling, Izuku would have pushed Elizabeth straight out of the way, and actually been swallowed whole by the known sludge villain. Izuku was struggling for air and tried to push the sludge villain off of him. Izuku managed to peel some of the sludge villain off of him so he could take a nice breath of air, before Elizabeth couldn't even do anything or cast a spell or anything like that. Izuku was instantly shot by a burst of wind that was passing by, as All Might said, "I am here. Don't worry, kids," as All Might threw a smash through the corridors, as All Might destroyed half of the actual crusting areas, but he saved the 2 kids from the sludgeville, and that all that mattered in that very moment. As All Might saved Izuku, Izuku asked for an autograph like he did what he did with Night Eye, as All Might opened his book and actually signed his book, same with Elizabeth. As All Might was about to jump off from collecting the sludge field before Izuku stopped him. "Excuse me, but is it possible for me to become a hero without a quirk?" Izuku said, as All Might would have just said to him. "Maybe or maybe not. It's really depending on what type of drive you have. But it also depends on what type of quirk you have as well. If your quirk isn't matching up the job, just back out of it. It's not worth it, in my opinion. But if you're quirkless, then I'm sorry, kid, but my answer's no. You're better off just going for a firefighter, police, or some medical department. They maybe not be heroic, but they are in their own way. They save people, no matter what the cost is to their own. That's what a hero does, more or less. So you better off going for one of those either." All Might said that broke Izuku down to him, crying, as Elizabeth would have just stared daggers at All Might at that very moment, as All Might found shivers down his spine. "Wait, why am I scared of a little kid?" All Might said. All Might jumped away as Izuku's tears just started flowing and more flowing down his face. "Why would he say that if he's meant to be the #1 hero, right?" Izuku said, crying more. "All Might's just an arrogant prick. He's not worth it, Izuku." As Elizabeth picked up Izuku and spread her wings wide and started to lift Izuku off of the ground, with Izuku just crying even more. As the moment they got up to the rooftop, they heard a giant explosion happen in the distance, as it was red with orange tints in it. As Izuku just said, "Isn't that Bakugo's type of explosion?" Izuku said, as Izuku instantly went down without noticing it. Izuku automatically, his body on instinct, went into that very direction. As Izuku arrived at the location of the actual explosion without realizing it, as Izuku looked over to see it was Bakugo, and just like canon, Izuku would have rushed in. The moment Izuku would have got there, Izuku would have actually tried to claw Bakugo out as much as he could, this failing, as All Might had to step in, buffing up and actually getting the same motivation like Ganon. "Don't worry, kid, I am here," All Might said, throwing a mighty Detroit smash onto the ground, changing the weather in the process, getting rid of the most of the fire and debris. As All Might collected up the sludge film, with Izuku getting scolded. But this is when Elizabeth arrived and actually tried to scold the heroes for doing a shit job of protecting a kid. "You know what? You guys are not heroes, you're just fake wannabes. If you really were heroes, you would have stepped in no matter the cost. Just stop being a hero altogether," Elizabeth shouted at them, as one of the heroes known as Death Arms was just about to raise his fist at one of the kids. But he realized the news reporters were behind him, and if he actually hit the kid, that wouldn't actually be good on his rep. So he actually just stopped automatically from before he hit her, as everything would have gone like canon, just like the original. Izuku and Elizabeth was both walking home that very day, as the moment Izuku was actually about to go forward and into a step, he was stopped by, "I am here in a bizarre position," All Might said. I don't stand for sound bites, I stand for heroism," All Might said, punching his chest. As Izuku just about to say something before, a giant pound of smoke surrounded All Might, making him disperse into his skinny All Might form, as All Might would have gone through the same thing like Cal. Let's begin with the actual training towards the actual 9 months, as Izuku and Elizabeth both actually got up that same day, as Izuku was actually walking downstairs to see his mother setting up everything for his dinner. "Hi Mom, what's up?" Inko was about to turn around with a gaze of fury in her eyes. "Sit down, eat your dinner, and get lost." "I don't want to deal with you at the moment," Inko said, infuriated. "Why, what's up, Mom?" Izuku said. "Nothing. Eat your dinner and get out now," Inko said, miscontinuing her words with dinner and breakfast. As Izuku just ate his breakfast and just left for the day, confused why his mother's acting like this. As the moment Izuku jogged all the way to the actual beach area, Izuku saw Elizabeth actually just waiting for him there. "Oh, hi Izuku," she said, walking up behind him. "Oh, hi Elizabeth, what's up?" Izuku said, as they both walked onto the beach waiting for a certain someone. As this certain someone came crashing down onto the beach with a loud thud. "I am here," this person shouted at the top of his lungs. As Izuku and Elizabeth both looked back to see a hulking blonde behemoth known as All Might. As All Might told them both to actually clean up the beach like canon, as they all would have cleaned the beach up as 5 months went by. As Izuku's relationship with his mother would have gotten a lot worse, with Inko starting to be more and more out the house, and when she's in, she's starting to drink more and more. Izuku was really confused at this, just shrugging it off, thinking it was just her month or something like that, but she seems to have it a little bit too often. So Izuku started to call up All Might and ask him about this, saying, because remember Izuku's our innocent little bunny, so you don't want to ruin that, do you? As All Might would have told Izuku to meet him at Dagobah Beach. I think he might want to hear this in person, as Izuku would have walked to the beach that very day, being told for All Might and the big speech that Izuku would have actually told All Might about his mother. "Izuku, my boy, or Midoriya, my boy, your mom's depressed. I don't know how to say this correctly, but she's miserable for some reason. And I don't know why, but to make it seems like the problem is herself." All Might said, "Why would that be the problem?" "I don't know for sure. I haven't met your mother yet, Izuku. So it's going to be really hard to actually tell why she's depressed. I'll try and get a full explanation on this by asking Sakauchi about it, but out of that, we better make sure your mother doesn't try anything stupid, so if anything happens, give me a call, okay?" All Might said, handing his number. As another month went by, as Izuku decided to actually get inherited of One For All from All Might. As Izuku's training with One For All, Izuku broke his arm the first day he got it, because All Might's stupid ass forgot to train him in it, haha lol. As he decided to call up Gran Torino to actually help him out train. As Gran Torino helped Izuku train for the rest of the months, with Izuku mastering One For All around about, let's say 30%. Remember, he's got his own body like canon, so he's basically got season 5 body built now. So Izuku's quite henched. As Izuku and Elizabeth both started walking around the area that very day, as they came around a corner to see a big hulking behemoth towering above 2 girls, and Izuku actually started to walk forward, saying, "Excuse me," as Izuku was stopped by Elizabeth. "Izuku, what are you doing? We need to go. Let's just leave this to the heroes," Elizabeth said. "No, that's not what heroes do, Elizabeth. Heroes come and protect people no matter what the cost is," Izuku said, pulling his arm away. "Izuku, please don't," Elizabeth said. As Izuku just started to rush in, thinking that the villain's going to full swing, but he read his information correctly. As Izuku just went up to the man asking what was wrong. As the big hulking behemoth asked the little boy, saying, "Do you know where this person's agency is?" Him handing a letter to Izuku. "Yeah, it's go straight down the road. It should be 3-4 blocks, turn left, go down another 2 blocks, then turn right and you're there," Izuku said. As the big hulking behemoth man started to walk off, as the 2 girls started to fall onto their knees and started to cry. Once they were finished crying, they both thanked Izuku for his bravery. As Elizabeth came rushing up to him, saying, "Dummy baka, I thought you were going to get hurt," she said. "Don't worry, Elizabeth, I'll be fine," Izuku said, smiling. As that will be the end of this actual bit of the episode. Time to go on to the actual entrance exam. As the day came of the entrance exam, as Izuku's training with All Might would have exceeded his expectations, as Izuku now has over 45% control of One For All, and able to actually copy Gran Torino's style and figured out how to use his legs early like canon. As Izuku's life would have been more or less the same like the original. Izuku got the same score on the test, getting 5th place on the actual mock. As the actual explanation of the actual entrance exam would have taken place like canon, as Izuku would have actually been shouted at by Ida or lectured by Ida, saying that Izuku Midoriya was actually chatting during the entrance exam, which this time Ida wasn't wrong. He was talking to Elizabeth about something special that he had planned after the actual exam. After Izuku actually arrived at his actual planted area, Elizabeth being in B, Izuku being in A, as Izuku actually managed to stretch his body all the way. Izuku was actually about to go to the front of the line until he got his hand placed on him by a certain someone. "Hey, you're not going over there to distract that girl, are you?" a big Sonic the Hedgehog said. "Can we all just get that in the actual comment section, please?" As Izuku would have just said to the boy. "What do you mean? I'm not going to distract her. I'm going to the front so I can get a head lead," Izuku said. "Oh really?" this blue Sonic the Hedgehog said. As Izuku just started to walk to the front and just completely ignored the nervous brown-haired girl. As Izuku got into his running stance, charging up 5% one for all. As the moment the gates were open, Izuku charged in at max speed, destroying like 3 robots in the span of 50 seconds. As Izuku increased the percentages of one for all, 15, 20, 25, as Izuku just went to a speeding bullet motion, him being a blur to the naked eye, as Izuku started to rush forward and destroy more and more robots in his wake, destroying quite a hefty amount to try and get himself up to 75 points in the span of 10 minutes. As Izuku was out to actually finish off destroying a bit more monsters or robots, until he heard a big rumble under his feet. Izuku looked behind him to actually see a bunch of monsters or robots, one giant one to be precise with the 0-pointer robot. As Izuku was about to say, this will be a good challenge to actually face. As Izuku actually charged up one for all without realizing a girl was trapped underneath it until the girl screamed for help. As Izuku instantly went down to her and turned off the rubble from her feet. Izuku asked her if she could walk. She replied saying no. As Izuku charged up one for all and charged at the robot with her in his arms. As Uraraka tapped Izuku's shoulder to make him lighter so they can actually get it down perfectly fine once the impact was complete. As Izuku said, "Fuck it. 45% smash!" Izuku shouted at the top of his lungs, smashing at the robot's head, making the robot's head cave in at the front, making giant wind pressure travel through the city. Halfway through the city, the wind stopped, as silence surrounded the area until the robot collapsed in the giant amounts of rubble that was underneath it. The moment the robot collapsed, Izuku was seen there floating in midair, as Uraraka let Izuku down slowly so they both don't get injured. As Izuku actually was sat there waiting for Recovery Girl, as Recovery Girl arrived and healed up Ichako's wounds, as Izuku left the entrance exam to be greeted with Elizabeth actually jumping onto his back. "Hey Izuku, how'd you do?" she said, as her chest placed against 2 of his necks like pillows on an airplane flight. I'm gonna get fucked for this. As Izuku actually was confused at this, with his head going in a daze with his face blushing like a tomato. As Izuku would have just said, "I did fine," Izuku said. As Izuku and Elizabeth both chat how their actually exam went. As Izuku was walking home, he could see that his apartment building was fully emptied. As Izuku walked in to see nothing was there, it was like he was being robbed. As Izuku called up All Might, as All Might came rushing almost instantly like a speeding bullet train from Japan. As Izuku would have been shocked seeing All Might arrive there so fast. As Izuku would have just told All Might what happened and how he's here in his house at. As Izuku would have just been told by All Might, "You haven't been robbed, Izuku. Your mom's left you here on your own." All Might said, confused why. As Izuku would have asked, "Why did my mom leave me here? That makes no sense," Izuku said. "Yeah, neither does it me. We gotta go to the police station right now," All Might said, taking Izuku to the police station. As Detective Sakauchi would have done some research into Inko's identity, all sorts like that, as it would have came up negative, as they were both confused at it until Izuku's dad came into the picture of the actual computer. "Okay, here's your biological dad, Asashi Midoriya. Residence, the USA, California." Wait, that doesn't seem right. There's no actual birth dates here. There should be some here. That's what Uchi said, as he did more research into Asashi's identity, seeing a bunch of fake IDs and a bunch of other things as well. What the fuck? What the hell is this? Takeuchi said, confused, as he would have actually done some more and more research into Asashi, coming up blank once he reached the end. As Asashi was confused at this, or Sakauchi was confused at this point, thinking why the hell would he make so many fake IDs for? This couldn't be who I think it is, could it? Nah, it can't be. It can't be him. Takeuchi said. As a couple of hours went by, as Elizabeth's parents were notified as Izuku's emergency call number. As the moment they arrived, they saw Izuku there staring at the floor, confused but curious forming in his eyes. As Elizabeth came to sit down with Izuku and comfort him, as Izuku just said, "Oh, hi Elizabeth, what's up?" Izuku said, still in shock. "Izuku, you okay?" Elizabeth said, worried for him. "Yeah, I'm fine," Izuku said, stuttering on his words and shaking. "Yeah, I'm fine," Izuku said, starting to laugh maniacally. Why'd she leave me? Izuku said, starting to cry. Why'd she leave me? Why'd she leave me? Izuku said, starting to laugh while he was crying. As Izuku started to have a hug from Elizabeth, as her head went into his chest, saying, "Come on, Izuku, step out of it," she said, as Izuku stepped out of his conscious mind. As a couple of minutes went by, as Elizabeth's family came into the room, telling Izuku that they would be living with him, or the other way around, as you would like to call it. As Izuku and Elizabeth and their parents would have gone home, the moment they opened the door, they saw Izuku just sail straight onto the couch, laying down there just like he was passed out. As they went to see how Izuku was doing, realizing he was just passed out. As Elizabeth's parents were just thinking of something. Should we reveal our secret to him? Well, he is one of our daughter's bestest of friends. For God's sake, they said. As Elizabeth's parents both came through the door, saying to her daughter, "Hey Elizabeth, sweetheart, come here," she said. "Would it be okay to, by you standards, do you trust Izuku with your life?" she said, and he said in unison, "Yeah, I do. What's up, Mom? What's up, Dad? What's up?" she said, confused, as Elizabeth would have got her hand on his shoulder, saying, "I think it's time to tell young Midoriya the truth about us and how we came from above," he said, as Elizabeth would have said, "You sure, Mom? You sure, Dad? Are you sure this would be the great idea at this very moment? You know what Grand Priest Michael would do if he found out a human knew of our existence. Yeah, I'm aware, and I'm willing to take that price that comes with it. So we're going to have to take it as long as we go," as Elizabeth's father would have agreed to this as a couple of hours went by, as Izuku would have awoken to Elizabeth sleeping on his chest. "Elizabeth," Izuku said, getting up from his space, as Elizabeth just hugged him even more without waking up. "5 more minutes, okay," she said, and under her breath, as Izuku nudged her a little bit, trying to get up. As the moment Izuku got up, she awoke. "Izuku, you're awake," she said, jumping at him. As the moment she did that, her parents walked into the room, seeing Izuku shirtless almost, with Elizabeth almost half naked hugging Izuku, as the father was saying, "Izuku," coming with a dark aura around him. That's a joke, by the way, she really isn't half naked. That's a joke, that's a joke, that's a joke! As Izuku and everyone else would have actually just had a good laugh with Elizabeth's father just having a rage, as they would have sat down with Izuku and told him everything about them, how they're a member of the goddess race clan, and they might not be leaving this mortal realm very soon, but it would be in the seeable future, he said, and he said at the exact same time. "Wait, you're leaving? When?" he said. "As we just said, we don't know." If we leave, you won't be able to see Elizabeth again, the man said, as Izuku just looked at her saying, "Is there any possible way you can stay here?" "Yeah, but it's really risky," he said. "You're gonna have to become one of us, Izuku," he said. Wait, what? One of what?" "A member of the goddess race. Instead of a goddess, you would be an angel." Izuku was just sitting there shocked and speechless. Izuku just stood up, went to a corner, and bashed his head on a wall and came back with a bloodied skull. "If it means I can protect her, yes, I will accept it," Izuku said, as her father would just said. "Good, that was a test. We're not actually leaving this mortal realm like hell we are. We've had too much fun here. So, I'm not becoming an angel?" Izuku said. As the man said, "No, you're not. That's just a test of your commitment, that's all." "Oh, thank God," Izuku said. "Oh, thank God you're not leaving," Izuku said under his breath, very, very relieved. As Izuku laid back in the seat thinking about something until the doorbell rang. As Izuku stood up and went to the door to see, it was the mailman delivering 2 letters for Izuku and Elizabeth. Izuku and Elizabeth both opened their letters in unison, as 2 holograms popped up of All Might, saying that they all passed, with Izuku getting first place in score, getting 75 hero points, with, drumroll please, I'm just clicking my fingers, it's pretty obvious I am, 120 points from the 0-pointer and all the points you got from beforehand, All Might said. Izuku and Elizabeth both cheered as 2 days went by, as Izuku and Elizabeth both got their actual costumes nice and ready for the actual practical portions of the exam. They did actually have it, but they didn't actually have it at that very moment, so it makes sense with that. As Izuku and Elizabeth both got their actual uniforms on, as they both exited the door, walking straight forward to the actual school of their dreams. When they arrived there, they were standing outside of a big huge door. As Izuku opened the door to see, it was Ida and Bakugo fighting like cannon. As Izuku and Elizabeth both walked in and sat down at their seats, very calm and peaceful, until Bakugo noticed. "Oi, Deku!" Bakugo shouted at Izuku with furious rage. "How the hell did you get here? You must have cheated." "Die, Deku!" Bakugo said, trying to throw an explosion, but couldn't throw an explosion one bit. As Bakugo would have looked behind him to see Eraserhead using his quirk on Bakugo. "Young Bakugo, use your quirk one more time in class, you will be expelled," Eraserhead said, as Eraserhead let go of his quirk, letting Bakugo just sit there confused why his quirk was cancelled out. As the rest of the actual physical portions of, like when they went to the changing rooms, would have gone similar to canon, but Elizabeth's changing rooms, the girl was of notice that she had angel wings or white wings on her back, as they all would have gone to her and asking her why did she have those little wings on her back, as she would have said, "Oh, it's my quirk, it basically lets me levitate above ground when I extend them, and I can shoot light out of my hands," she said. "So like light reflection," as an invisible girl would have said. "So it's similar to my quirk, yeah? Actually, yours is invisibility, right? You can reflect light off you?" "Yes. Well, mine's quite the opposite. Instead of putting it in me, it's more or less shoot it outwards into like kinetic blasts kinda like thing," she said, replying to Toru. "Oh, so it's similar but not too similar. Okay, thank you," Toru said, as they all would have gone outside to see Aizawa sitting there, waiting for everyone to actually come out, with Izuku just being standing there for the past 5 minutes waiting for all the boys as well to come out of the changing rooms. As for the actual exams, everything would have gone similar, but Izuku would have got number 1 in most places. But for the side-to-side jumping, I would see, not side-to-side jumping, the races, I would see Elizabeth getting second here because of her speed with her wings, and Izuku getting first because he used 50% one for all to actually win, just actually getting a neck forward than actually Elizabeth would do. Izuku just managed to actually accelerate from Elizabeth with 50% 1-for-all on his side. As Izuku throughout the test would have actually broken multiple records, same with Elizabeth through her light refractionable strength. As throughout those couple of hours or not even days, a couple of minutes, the chart would have been confirmed as Izuku would have been first by just a slide, Elizabeth second, as everyone else would have got the same marks but a little bit lower down. Mineta getting last place, he wouldn't be expelled because I've got a plan for him actually. As we go back to their actual changing rooms, as the moment they all entered the changing rooms, Kirishima finally took notice of Izuku. Can we get Kirishima as a crackhead in the comics? As Kirishima would have just said to Izuku, "Hey Izuku, what is Mineta doing?" As Kirishima would have just told Izuku to look behind him, with Mineta trying to look through a hole. As Mineta would have just saw a hole and tried to look through it to see a bountiful of beauty babes. "I want to see them beautiful babes," Mineta said. As Izuku would have just let out his intense aura, speeding at Mineta. As Mineta wouldn't have realized it, as Mineta's head would have been curb stomped into a goddamn locker door, with Mineta's nose breaking and one of his teeth being chipped. As Mineta would have tried to get up, but Izuku would have knocked Mineta straight back down. "You dare look at her, or even dare look for that hole, I will kill you," Izuku said, at Mineta, glaring at him menacingly. As Mineta's actual vocal tones changed at this point, as Mineta started to shake vigorously, almost passing out from the intense pressure Izuku was letting off at this very moment. As they all went outside, as Izuku met up with Elizabeth that very day. As Izuku and Elizabeth both walked home. Izuku and Elizabeth both arrived back home, as they would have been greeted with their parents, sat down and ate. As Izuku said he was going to go out to train, as Izuku trained for a little while. As Izuku saw a giant light that was in the sky. "Wow, that's such a pretty star," Izuku said. As Izuku walked back into the house once he finished training, had a shower and went to bed. The next day arrived actually, as Izuku was so happy to see that. As Elizabeth and Izuku both walked downstairs, had their breakfast and went straight out the door, booming like mad. As Izuku would have arrived at UA, as this is where the battle training would commence. As All Might would have done the same thing like Cannon, pushing down the door like a hero. "I'm pushing the door like a normal person," All Might said. As everyone else would have cheered, everyone getting the same reactions except from Izuku and Elizabeth. As everyone else would have actually gone out to actually get changed. The only difference here would be, I would say Izuku would have his Season 4 outfit, while Elizabeth, I do not know, I would say she had a goddess type of outfit, but I'll try and actually find an outfit that would actually suit her. If I can find one, I'll put it on the screen right now. I'll make sure this gets timestamped as well, so you guys can actually see her outfit. As Elizabeth and Izuku both walked outside to their actual respective areas. As Izuku and everyone both drew their actual areas, and actually picked up a ball to actually get their name being called. As Izuku got A, as Elizabeth also got A. Elizabeth was very convenient actually. Izuku and Elizabeth were both thinking in unison. As All Might said, all the teams are now picked. Now everyone getting your team buddy, and let's get into the matches. "Randomizer on," All Might said, pointing to the button on the TV. As the first fight against was Izuku and Elizabeth versus Bakugo and Uraraka. As Izuku and Elizabeth were meant to be the heroes, while the Bakugo and Uraraka are the villains. As Izuku and Elizabeth both sat outside while they waited. As Elizabeth and Izuku waited quite a while until All Might get him their go ahead. As Izuku and Elizabeth both walked through the door, waiting for their first move to actually take an effect. As Izuku told Elizabeth to actually stay here while Izuku just scanned through the area. As Izuku jumped all the way to the top of the roof, seeing the bomb on the 5th floor. As Izuku would have told Elizabeth this, as Izuku told Elizabeth to shoot a ray of beam of light straight through where she is standing right now on the top of the roof. as Elizabeth did so, shooting a hole, making this into an distraction for Bakugo, as Izuku slipped into the room, punching Bakugo in the stomach, knocking him to a wall. Uraka wouldn't have had enough time to react, as Uraka would have been chapped upon the neck, being knocked out almost instantly, as Bakugo would have got back up at this time, firing explosions at Izuku, as Izuku would have pulled an All Might, blocked it, and slammed Bakugo right into the floor, knocking Bakugo clean out of his air, as Bakugo was trembling to stand up as his gauntlet flashed red, as, "Take this, you damn nerd!" Bakugo said. "No, young Bakugo, don't pull that, he'll die." All Might said, "Not if he dodges," as Bakugo pulled the pin out of his gauntlet in a furious hurry, as a giant ray of explosions came flying through to Izuku like cannon. But this didn't stop Izuku, however. "Delaware smash!" Izuku shouted as a giant gust of air came rushing through Bakugo, surrounding the lobby in air, crushing and dispersing the explosion, but most of it still hit Izuku, grazing him just barely, as Izuku would have just said, "It's the best you got, you damn Pomeranian," Izuku said, infuriating Bakugo, as before he could do anything, "Hero Team wins," shouted All Might, as Bakugo was confused at this, thinking why did he just say Hero Team won, until he looked over to see Elizabeth with her wings expended, and another hole bigger in the window. Left off from part 2, as All Might shouted at Bakugo, telling him to stop, but Bakugo did not listen. As Bakugo was just about to fire his pin out of his gauntlet, Izuku heard a giant twig, almost like, snap into the air, as Izuku's eardrums were about to pop from the amount of pressure Izuku was putting on his body from actually trying to push himself to try and stop Bakugo just in time, as Izuku rushed towards Bakugo, firing an explosion at him, but Izuku aimed all the way up as Izuku breaks Bakugo's gauntlet in two, like what he did in Season 5, or Sugar Rush did in Season 5, Episode 9, as Izuku managed to break Bakugo's gauntlet, making Bakugo knock on his ass. "You fucking Deku!" Bakugo said, throwing an explosion at Izuku's face, charring Izuku's skin, as Izuku managed to actually still stay up from it, but he was still dazed from it, as All Might rushed down there to see if everyone was okay. As the moment he arrived, he saw Izuku and Bakugo and everyone else actually walking out of the building, who was actually on that team at that very moment. As everyone arrived back out and actually went to Recovery Girl's healing office, or just her office in general. As the moment Izuku arrived there, he instantly sat down and almost collapsed from exhaustion. The same with Elizabeth, Bakugo, and his teammate. As everyone was well rested and healed all the way up and got all their stamina halfway back, as Izuku and everyone else both went back to class to grab all their stuff, until Kirishima actually introduced himself, very happy I would say he was, as Kirishima would have just tried to shake Izuku's hand very vigorously and said, "I'm Ejiro Kirishima, it's nice to meet you," he said. Same with Mina Ashido, Tenya Ida, and everyone else on there. As everyone else arrived back home for where they originally stayed, as we're going to skip until the next day, everyone else was sitting in class until Aizawa told everyone to actually get downstairs, get changed, and get onto the bus. "We're going to have a little field trip," Shoto Aizawa said. "What about our parents? Are they notified about this?" "Yeah, we notified them a couple of days in advance. We told them to keep quiet about it for the sake of like you being excited or something like that or other," Shoto said with a big grin on his face, as everyone else went down to actually get changed into their hero outfits, as Izuku's hero outfit would stay the same like last episode, or this episode I would say, because it wasn't heavily damaged like canon, as everyone else both went down and arrived onto the bus, as everyone had their long conversations on the bus, as until Sue brought up that Midoriya's quirk kind of resembles All Might, as Izuku would have waved his hands frantically in the air, saying, "No it doesn't, what's he on about?" Izuku said, until Suyu interrupted again. "Well, he creates wind pressure with his fists, and so do you. So I'm just wondering if you're the secret son of All Might?" Sue said, very questionable, No, I'm not Suiyu. Oh, Asui, sorry. I'm not Son of All Might. If I was, I would be cool, but I'm not. Izuku said, questioning her reality. As Izuku and everyone else actually arrived at the USJ, with Izawa telling everyone to get off to the bus. As everyone arrived at the bottom step of the USJ, everyone just stared at the big platform known as this big continent of the building. As everyone just started to walk in until Araka noticed a white bubbly tile woman. If anyone's seen like the actual driving advert that they use for tires, it kind of reminds me of that. I'll put a picture on screen if I can find it. It's basically a UK advert. As Izuku looked at her saying, "Araka, you alright?" Izuku said, staring at her. It's that's 13, the number 13 hero. I can't remember her actual standpoint, I'm just saying that for a laugh. As Araka just stared at him saying, "You don't know who 13 is? She's the hero that actually went to space," Araka said, ranting and raving like canon. As 13 was talking to the students about everything until Aizawa walked up to her and asked for a private conversation. Until 13 holded up 3 fingers telling that All Might will be over his limit today. As everything else would have gone like canon, with Kirishima actually going to the bottom of the stairway and telling, "Yo, what the hell? We're fighting fake villains as well?" Kirishima said to everyone else. "No, those aren't fake villains, they're real villains, everyone get back now," Aizawa said, pushing everyone back. As everything would have happened like canon, with everyone being teleported to different areas of the USJ. Mainly Midoriya and Elizabeth being teleported to the same place, almost exactly the same place. As before Elizabeth hit the water, she used her wings to levitate above ground, with Izuku using 50% one for all, or at least 20, to try and actually swim back to the mainland. But he saw Suyu jumping onto the boat, which Izuku followed and jumped straight onto the boat, leaving a decent sized shockwave behind him. Izuku managed to actually clip onto the boat, same with Elizabeth and Suyu, both making up a plan to actually get off the boat successfully. As Suyu would have just said, "I'll jump straight to the actual land with my frog legs," she said. "But I can fly," Elizabeth said. "We better go with the safe approach. The more speed we have, the better chance we have in actually getting to the mainland. So if Suyu can lift her legs up fast enough and literally force enough air out, she can literally lift Elizabeth up to the air and literally use her wings to actually glide faster to the actual main areas." As Izuku would have to do this plan, and everyone would have agreed to this, as Izuku and everyone would have gone to their stance to actually pull this off. 3, 2, 1, "Do it now," Izuku said, jumping off. "Delaware, smash!" Izuku said, shouting at 50% of his power, flying it straight into the ocean or the little lake in the USJ, making a giant shockwave just like cannon, destroying most of the actual water and terrain, making the water collapse in on itself, making most of the villains pass out from actual lung indigestion of too much water hopping into their lungs. As Izuku, Elizabeth and Suyu both arrived on the actual ground, as they both saw Shigaraki, Nomu and everyone else just like cannon being crushed into the ground, with Aizawa's body being completely destroyed just like cannon. As Shigaraki would have noticed the kids from Suyu just yeeping, seeing the amount of blood that was coming out of the skinny Aizawa. As Aizawa would have tried to actually try and get up, but the moment he got up, he got his face slammed into the ground by the Nomu's full force. As the Nomus punched Aizawa, Shigaraki would have noticed the people like cannon and tried to rush forward to them. But Ida, before all this happened, managed to get out just in time, thanks to actually Uraraka and everyone else just like canon helping out. As Ida would have rushed out to actually go to the high school, as we come back to Izuku's point of view. As the Shigaraki was just about to touch Izuku, a giant boom was heard at the front exit or the front door to see All Might wasn't smiling. "You goddamn here villains, I am here to save you," All Might said without smiling, as All Might instantly blitzed everyone, instantly grabbing Izuku, Aizawa, Elizabeth and so on, and instantly rushed back to the top of the stairs. as All Might would have told them to actually get out of here as soon as possible. Izuku wouldn't have listened and actually tried to see if he could help All Might, but All Might just shut him off, saying, "Young Midoriya, get up there now, before I lose my patience," All Might said. "Yes, All Might, sir," Izuku said as he grabbed Elizabeth and Izuku and so on, and actually blitzed all the way upstairs in just a minimum amount of speed. As the fight with the Nomu and All Might would have tripped like cannon, with All Might being stuck in between the Nomu's grasp, as the Nomu would have tried to actually squeeze All Might into the portal, but Izuku would have saw this and blitzed through everything at 50%. As the moment Izuku arrived at the Nomu, Izuku punched the Nomu straight in the arm, severing the Nomu's arm from his entire body, as the Nomu would have screamed out in pain, but had his arm regenerated moments later. As Izuku was actually planning on actually hitting it again, All Might pushed him out the way, as the Nomu swung, creating the same amount of wind pressure that All Might's mighty smash would have done like cannon, flinging the Nomu out of the way, that type of thing. As Izuku and everyone else saw the power of the Nomu being a little bit shooken, but Todoroki threw a giant amount of ice at the Nomu, freezing it almost completely, as Shoto would have shouted, "All Might, Izuku, hit him with everything!" Shoto shouted, as Izuku and All Might didn't waste any time and charged up 100% in both of their arms. "United, States of ya, smash!" they both shouted in unison, flinging the Nomu out of the USJ at triple times the speed. Just remember, these two punches are as strong as All Might's prime combined, of course. As the moment the Nomu flung out the way, the wind pressure that was caused through the mighty punch of All Might and Izuku would have caused massive amounts of destruction around the area, destroying a little bits of craters in the USJ, making one giant one in the center where Izuku and All Might were standing. As the moment that punch was thrown, Izuku instantly collapsed down to the floor because of the pain in his left arm. "Damn it," Izuku said as he blacked out. As we skip a couple of days when Izuku woke up into the hospital. As Izuku actually woke up, he was greeted with Elizabeth, let's just say that, laying on his bed. As the moment Izuku moved around, Elizabeth woke up and started to hug him. "Izuku, I'm so glad you're awake," she said, crying into his chest. "Everything's okay. What's up, Elizabeth?" Izuku said, smiling at her, as little tears came falling around her face as Izuku lifted up his good arm and wiped those tears away like they were nothing to him. As a couple of minutes later, two knocks was heard at the door. As the door was sliding open, he actually was greeted with Elizabeth's parents, All Might, Aizawa, and Nezu, as they all walked into the room and sat down next to Izuku, as everyone explained to them what was going on and how everything was going so far. As Aizawa gave Izuku a little sheet of paper to actually tell him what was wrong with his arm and everything, as Nezu just explained to him, "So Izuku, you'll be having the rest of the 2 weeks off from school because of the USG attack. We need to do some background research on what actually happened into the building. Once we figured this out, we're going to host a little sports festival, okay?" Izuku would have just took this information to heart and would have just nodded his head frankly. "So, will you get over your training then, young Midoriya?" All Might said. "Well, I was thinking about actually training with Elizabeth for the rest of the week," Izuku said, laughing, as Elizabeth would have just gave him a little, what do you call it, pinch? Yeah, pinch on his cheek, saying, "Baka!" As those 2 weeks of training would begin, as Izuku's body started to grow and more muscular on his back as well, as Elizabeth would have got more and more eye candy to look at, let's just say that. As Elizabeth and Izuku was both walking down into the UA campus building to actually get changed into their sportswear. As they both arrived there, as they both got changed, as they met everyone on the bus to actually go to the actual sports festival arena. As everything there would have gone like canon, as Izuku in this timeline would have actually gone up to the stage and actually introduced himself as the class rep or the class representative. Just remember, I completely forgot at the start to actually tell you what's happened, everything would have picked like canon, with Momo Yaoyorozu and Izuku actually being the head and that so on and so forth of the year group, basically. As Izuku would have told everyone to go plus ultra and never give up on their dreams, he said with a smile. Even if you're quirkless, you can still become a hero no matter what you do. Izuku said, starting to giggle with laughter a little bit to try and show everyone more confidence in themselves, even if they're quirkless. As it began with the actual racing of the actual people, as Izuku got into his stance and charged up 20% one for all right at the start. 3, 2, 1, beep! As the duet noise went off, as everyone started to run straight out of the actual areas, or perspective areas, let's just say that, as they all rushed through frantically, getting all the way to the actual first area of the pointers, as Izuku just smashed through them all and started to run faster, faster and faster, all the way until he actually got to the first exited of the area. As Izuku came across the 0 pointers, Izuku used 6% of his one for all to actually jump to building to building until he got to a 0 pointer, using a 50% smash to smash his head clean through, making the 0 pointer fall over and creating massive amounts of wind pressure surrounding Izuku's body, making the wind actually blow up the actual other 0 pointers surrounding that one. Izuku threw one more mighty smash to actually direct himself like a new Mancha smash that Izuku or All Might actually used during the fight with Bakugo, Izuku and All Might during season 3 or 2. Can't remember what exact episode, but it's there on the actual anime forums. As Izuku would have just launched himself to the exit of the actual main entrance of the actual sports festival arena until they heard, "First place goes to Elizabeth." Well, I can't remember her last name, so you guys have to make do. If you guys are actual Seven Deadly Sins fans, please comment her name in the comment section down below, like her last name. I'm gonna get bloody roasted in the comment section, aren't I? Please forgive me, comment section. Alright, let's begin our story once more. As Izuku was launching himself through and through until he finally got to the exit or the entrance of the actual sports festival arena. "Second place goes to Izuku Midoriya!" the announcer said, screaming his lungs out, this being Present Mike. As let's cut to the point of view of Bakugo and Todoroki being neck and neck during it. As Todoroki threw most ice attacks through to Bakugo, as Bakugo tried to invade them, but he was hit by one of them, with Todoroki getting the lead. But the moment he got to the exit, near to the actual entrance of the sports festival arena, Bakugo overtook him by just a millisecond, getting himself third place, with Todoroki getting fourth. As Todoroki, before he hit the finish line, he put a wall of ice behind him to actually make the other contenders struggle to actually get in. I know, dick move, I guess. As a couple of minutes later, as everyone else actually came through the arena door, as the second event would begin with all the cavalry battle. As for all the teams, they would stay like canon, but Uraka wouldn't be on Izuku's team for plot convenience. I would say Uraka might not be in Class 1A, but she could be at the same time. You guys can decide that because I haven't put her into the characters yet. Minetta's in and everyone else. I'm thinking about taking out Uraka and replacing her with actual other people as well. Just like because I haven't actually done her point of view yet, so I want you guys to decide if I could keep her in or not. So let's begin again. As for who would be on Izuku's team, you may ask. It'll be same like canon, but instead of Uraka, it'll be Elizabeth. As everyone else would have gone to their same teams like canon, and let's begin the actual arena. As Izuku and everyone else was both getting into their respective points of views, Izuku being on top with Elizabeth being on the back for support of her wings, as Mei would have actually used her rocket boots at the start to actually launch themselves into the air, with Elizabeth having the 1 million point band and Izuku having the second place point band of like what, 100,000 let's just say, as Izuku was evading and invading every single attack he could actually avoid. As most people are actually getting to Izuku, but the moment Izuku did, however, Izuku used his wind pressure he learned by using the glove style early, launching little air bullets right at them, flicking his finger just like nothing. like it was just mounts and mounts of air coming off of Izuku's hands. As the moment the wind compacted with those people, they were sent flying little bits of feet back. As Izuku hit the ground, however, he didn't. As Elizabeth activated her wings and activated light reflection to actually use that to her advantage. As little particles of light came flashing down, blinding the people below. As Elizabeth would have just shouted, "Ark!" She shouted, sorry for the ear rape. As light reflectionable arrows came flying down, knocking some people back quite a hefty bit, but not injuring them in the slightest. Just remember, these are arrows, so they can impale people. As the end of the actual arena battle would have ended, with only the person who had lost their headband on Izuku's team being Izuku losing his 100,000 headband. If I've got the points wrong and everything, please tell me in the comment section down below. I'm starting to slowly lose my grip on the series a little tiny bit. Sorry about that, boys. As Izuku and Elizabeth both sat in the actual changing rooms talking and actually taking a little break for a couple of hours until the final event committed. As Prison Mike would have came down and said, "Round 3 will be commencing very, very soon. So please, everyone and every student, get ready!" Prison Mike said, shouting through the matacombs. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Sorry for the ear rape as well. As everyone came down and got into the respective areas, with everyone getting the same things like canon. But instead of Uraka fighting Bakugo, it's Elizabeth fighting Bakugo. This is gonna go well. As Izuku would fight Shinso. Shinso would have been knocked out. There's literally no point in me just saying literally Shinso would just get knocked out. He would have got the Eye of Aizawa, however, because, you know, canon plot. As Izuku would have just done the same things like canon, but the moment he started fighting Todoroki, he had to bump his percentage up to 30%. As Izuku threw smashes upon smashes at Todoroki's eyes, breaking them in the process. As Izuku would have just tried to evade Todoroki, but the moment ice came at Izuku had to charge up more and more percentages because Todoroki keeps on making it denser. As Izuku finally had enough. "Why don't you use your other quirk? It'll make it more sense than one instead of just using half-witted your power, Todoroki!" Izuku shouted at him, trying to get his attention, but failing. "I'm not using that goddamn bastard's power!" Todoroki said, shouting at Midoriya. "It's not his power, it's yours, Todoroki," he said, as Todoroki would have got his flashback like cannon. As Todoroki erupted into fire and blazing red, as Todoroki's heat would have surrounded the actual arena. You can even toast marshmallows on his heat. As the same thing like canon would have happened with Todoroki's special move. But without Izuku using 100%, Izuku would have used 30, with the same destruction happening like canon, with Cementos actually surrounding the mented areas, and actually surrounding areas in actual concrete to make sure all the audience was okay. As Izuku and Todoroki both arrived out of there with a bunch of scratches and bruises, but Todoroki had it the worst, with one broken arm and one fractured rib. But it was still healed by Recovery Girl the moment Todoroki went into there. He just rested. As the rest of the rounds would have stayed the same. But this is where our story actually changes with the fight with Elizabeth and Bakugo. With that fight, I would see Bakugo gaining a hand in the battle, but because of Elizabeth's refraction of light, I would think not. Literally, Bakugo's ass would have been fucking whooped. Nonetheless, as the arrows would have came down on Bakugo's head, crushing, almost killing him, but really didn't actually. As Elizabeth would have won. As for the rest of the recovery battle, everything would have gone like normal. Kuroshin would have lost against Tetsu, and then he would have lost against Elizabeth. But when the moment it came, Izuku and Elizabeth in the final round, that's when it gets interesting. Because Izuku's almost on the same power level as Elizabeth right now. But if he activates 100%, then he'll be on even ass with her. But he didn't want to hurt her, so Izuku stick to 30. Izuku started to say, "You ready, Elizabeth?" Izuku said. "Ready as I'll ever be, Izuku," she said. Izuku and her both got into fighting stances as President Mike shouted, "Go." As Izuku and her both rushed at each other, Izuku disappeared from vision of view, same with her, as they both clashed and clashed and clashed until the last clink. As the last clink was heard, Izuku was flying all the way down the actual main areas, as he hit the ground with a loud thud, making clouds of dust surround the areas. As Izuku managed to get up from his surrounding area, at the moment Izuku got up, he could feel one of his ribs starting to crack. "Damn it, Elizabeth, that hurt," Izuku said, quietly. As Izuku got up from his imaginable pain, as Izuku was standing on his own 2 feet, until Elizabeth came to a haymaker, but Izuku managed to dodge it just in time. The moment Izuku dodged it, Izuku threw a left kick to Elizabeth's long jaw, as it connected, sending Elizabeth flying back a little bit of feet, but still not knocking her out for the count. As Elizabeth charged back to Izuku with arc in hand, and Izuku with his 50% smash. Arc smash! As they both collide, creating dust clouds upon dust clouds surrounding the area. As President Mike would have just said, "Who is left standing? You guys decide," President Mike shouted. As President Mike would have noticed, "Elizabeth wins!" Elizabeth Mike shouted surprisingly, as everyone would have cheered as Izuku was just flung out the ring, with 1 broken rib, 2 fractured arms, and a concussion, as Izuku was rushed to the hospital, or recovery girl's office, let's just say that, as Elizabeth was just sitting in the bed as well, waiting for Izuku just to wake up. As Izuku woke up to see Elizabeth just standing there with her medal in hand. "Look, Izuku, I won," she said, smiling. As Izuku gave her a little smile, saying, "Oh, that's so cool, Elizabeth," Izuku said, trying to get as much words out as he could at that very moment in time. As Izuku was about to get up before he felt something heavy around his neck. "Well, you couldn't actually come to the ceremony, but this is your medal," she said, handing Izuku his medal. "Thank you, Elizabeth," Izuku said, as he patted her on the head. "That feels nice," she said, as Izuku and her went home that day, surprising that they actually got it. As the next day arrived, as they all went into class, as Aizawa showed everyone their apprenticeship forms, Izuku managed to get 5,000 in his timeline, with Elizabeth getting a whopping 7,000, some coming from America as well, which surprised them a lot, as Izuku and everyone else would have actually picked their internships, as Izuku would have actually picked for. Did you say you picked Gran Torino just like Canon for persistently's sake? As Gran Torino would have taught him everything like Canon, but without one for all spreading throughout his entire body, because Izuku would have already known that. As this is where our story changes. As Izuku was going out with Gran Torino, the Nomu attacked, but instead of Gran Torino hitting it, Izuku would have surpassed Gran Torino and hit the Nomu full force, bursting the Nomu's head into little tiny pieces outside the works. As the moment the Nomu would have tried to regenerate, but it just walked around like a working corpse, Gran Torino hit it back, making it fully dead on the floor. As Gran Torino told Izuku to get everyone out of here now, as Izuku would have complied, saying that, "Okay, Gran Torino, let's go." As everything would have gone like Canon until the Stain bit. Izuku arrived at Stain's location to see Ida on the floor bleeding out. As Izuku rushed over to Ida and smashed Stain's head off of Ida, blasting him back. "I will not let you hurt my friend," Izuku said, shouting at Stain. "Another fake wannabe here, I see," Stain said, putting his knife to his tongue, making Stain more interesting into Izuku. God, this makes it sound like in the pedophile territory. As Izuku would have dodged Stain's attacks or upcoming attacks, Izuku dodged every single one until one finally struck, as Izuku hit Stain accidentally with a 50% punch, destroying little bits of building debris, but Izuku managed to keep the air pressure in, but blew off Stain's left arm